Welcome to my channel, Mispronounced Adventures. My name's Alex, and this channel we bang on about heaters quite a lot.
A heater for the heat. I said
Heaters.
leave the heating on. I did turn the heating on in the van about an hour ago.
I spent the last 2 winters in the Northern Arctic, in Sweden, Finland and Norway, getting down to temperatures of minus 31 centigrade. So keeping warm is pretty important.
I'm a bit cold and exhausted.
I've made a bunch of videos in the past about heaters, and some of them have got almost 300,000 views. So when Velit contacted me, which is a Seattle-based American company, offering me a Petrol gasoline heater, I thought I'll take a look at it. They are an American company, so for this video I will be referring to it as a gasoline heater, not petrol. For those of you who don't know, British vans of my style, Ford Transit Sprinters, 99% of European vans engines are diesel. It seems in the States or across the pond it's a bit different. It seems petrol is primarily the engine type. It seems gasoline is primarily the engine type. But what stuck out to me is this heater apparently does both gasoline and diesel without any major hardware changes. And I didn't know you could have multi-fuel heaters. But I am thorough with the heaters. I do have a habit of tearing them apart and looking at them internally. So on their head be it, send it to me. So they particularly asked me to do a few things. Noise tests, or CO tests, against my current Chinese-made heater, which look a bit like that. And if I'm honest, looking on their website, whilst it is an American company, it looks very similar to what a Chinese diesel heater looks like. And the box as well has some telltale writing. Whilst one of these Chinese-made diesel heaters retails for, in the UK, about £100, their gasoline or diesel equivalent of their heater retails for around $649, and in the UK £520. So that is a big step up in price. Looking on their website, it makes some bold claims, particularly reliability, saying it uses only high quality validated components for outstanding reliability. Also uses Japanese glow plugs, which have a 3 times the lifespan of cheaper ones, and a weather seal controller. Elevation wise, it's got also elevation adjust, so it's got the industry's highest elevation rating of 16,000 feet. We work on meters on this side of the globe. I don't know how high 16,000 feet is. All that really does is it varies the fuel and fan speed ratio to get a clean burn. Now that isn't something I'm going to be able to test, but on their website they do provide test data. However, it is contradictory saying they are a local company and test their products in Seattle, when last I checked, Xiling and Delingha were in northern China and not continental United States. So you could have at least put US test data there. But this is an interesting one, efficiency. It says it uses its own proprietary combustion chamber, which can cut down on exhaust temperatures by up to 30% than cheaper heaters, which that's quite a statement. And that is something I can test with my thermal imaging cameras. And I want to see what's different about it, because I've disassembled many of these styles of heaters. Also says for the blower fan, they've balanced it and it uses a pump 3 times larger than the normal diesel heater pump. So most of these Chinese-made diesel heaters you come across, or petrol ones, potentially use a 22 dose pump. They use a 65 for both diesel and gasoline version. It also has one of the important features, or missed on many heaters, is a perfectly working thermostat. So a thermostat which regulates pump speed versus fan speed to maintain a set temperature. And one of the features which is often not available on the cheaper made Chinese heaters is that after you've reached a set temperature, the heater will dial back to a low setting, and even on that low, it can still overheat your van. Their heater also says it will shut down if it reaches a certain high temperature and start up again, which is a pretty useful feature. Another bit to bring up is these are 2 of my spare Chinese diesel heaters. They're both listed and sold as 5 kilowatt. Realistically, that's always been a marketing lie. They're 4 kilowatt. And these guys, and Velit correctly lists theirs as 4 kilowatt. So first off, let's get the box open and let's get all the accessories out and just see what the quality of the accessories is versus what you get in a Chinese heater kit. Considering they're asking me to compare it directly to my current installed Chinese heater, let's look at the bigger picture opposed to just noise and CO output. Right, first off, what's in the box? Manual, padding. Right, well there's the heater itself, let's grab that out. Well, first off, that is an interesting colour for sure. And this is why, when I looked on the website, I was a bit, not suspicious, but intrigued. That is their heater, retailing at £550. That is a Chinese heater, retailing at less than a quarter of the price. Similar construction, but that's only a case. It can be very different inside. But first off, let's put that aside and look what else comes in the box. Accessories. If anyone has ever built or used Chinese diesel heaters before, they know that the accessories most of them come with are absolute crap and you have to replace a lot of them. Okay, first off, this is an ECU. This is very different than normal ECUs. They've sent me the diesel ECU, so the heater is helpful to me because I have a diesel van. Currently got the gasoline ECU built into it, but I have never seen an ECU like this on any style of heater. And that's the only change, to swap it over to a different fuel source. Okay, good quality exhaust, better than a lot of the cheap stuff you get. Cylinder unit if you want to put it into your own tank. Hardline 2mm bore fuel line. Excellent. Pretty standard generic stuff you get with all your heaters. That's your vents for inside the van, and that's your air intake vent for the combustion side. Yeah, vent. Air filter. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't look like many of the air filters I come across are sponge. This is just a mesh, so I don't really know dust-wise how much, it's not going to filter that fine a particulate out. Jubilees and doodads. So on the Chinese made ones, you always have to replace the Jubilees as they are shockingly poor quality. These don't feel as lightweight or poor quality as I normally see, but they're also not the best. Normally these rust away in a couple of years, same with brackets on for holding the exhausts up. More screws and gubbing, the standard self-tappers you get with all of these style of units. For mounting plate, if you're fitting one of these in a vehicle, you need to use a turret version, which has basically a big tube welded end of it to make a good seal. These aren't really suitable for putting into the floor of vans normally. Bottom gasket, which those won't wear, that helps make a seal on a flat surface. This is very nice. So these are fuel quick connect fittings, which work for a lot of vehicles. I'm pretty sure this one is the style which my Ford Transit uses, which for me, when I put mine in, I had to go buy the kit which had this, which was a sender pipe, and that cost about 30 odd pounds, to be honest, to buy a kit which had this in. So the fact that they supplied two ones which work for a lot of vehicles which already have quick connect fuel fittings or auxiliary ports in their fuel senders is really quite nice. A little tiny fuel filter, I've not seen one like that before, and just the rest of your usual gubbins for putting your fuel line together. And the controller, small, apparently weather sealed according to the website, uses a pretty standard connector and comes with 3M tape for putting on the back wall. So off the bat, reasonable quality. The Jubilee clips still look poor quality, and decent exhaust pipe, better than normal fuel line. Overall doesn't look too bad. Right, I was wondering about that. There's an important bit which I missed. This is a fuel pump. And what's different is normally with 5 kilowatt diesel heaters or petrol heaters, you've got a 2.2 dowsing pump. This uses a 65 for both the gasoline and the diesel version, which will mean more volume, less pumps, quieter operation. If the unit still has the tap, tap, tap people are used to, I guess we'll find out when we get it all set up. Right, one heater. Two heaters. First off, wiring loom. This does not look particularly good quality, given what I see on the ones like this. Most of these heaters, most people have to cut loads of this wire off and replace it with far thicker stuff because you have voltage drop issues, which then means the heater can't light. Well, that's normally how it occurs on these ones, but this seems like a really big wiring loom. Although it's come fully set up so you can just attach it right away, but realistically, there seems to be meters of it here you want to cut out. Even the stickers are in the same place. Right, let's get this disassembled. And for a comparison, let's get this one out as well. Straight off the bat, going for a similar design. The cheaper Chinese made heaters use the expired patent for the Dispatcher or SPAR 4D. And if I'm honest, this is looking like it's also using that same expired patent design. For anyone who's not really familiar with the anatomy of these, fuel line coming in, combustion air intake coming in, exhaust gases come out. ECU, which is controlling everything, glow plug, temperature sensor, fan which spins, combustion happens in here, this heats up, fan pulls cool air in, blowing it across the heat exchanger, blowing out your hot air. More after simple anatomy. Nice feature there is they've balanced the fan, which you don't see on cheap heaters, so that's well thought through. It does list it on the website as well, but they've actually had some balancing done. Right, let's start getting it apart. Well, initial thoughts is I would say my cheap Chinese heater has a better casting than this one. I mean, the splashes which are not cleaned off on different edges. This is nice and rounded and flat. This is quite rough actually. Let me just get one of my other Chinese heaters apart. This one might have a slightly different case, but that's realistically irrelevant. Well, these might all look the same, but there are slightly different changes. I think some have different angles in different places. Some of these gaps here are larger. Not realistically going to make any different. They are different castings, but they are effectively a different casting of the exact same unit. And I wouldn't say that this heater, which is 5 times the price of this one, is a better casting. This seems to be a far tidier and more cleaned up casting. But let's stop talking about other heaters and start disassembling the one we're meant to be talking about. I will say that the ECU in this one is far nicer than these style ones. Generally are sealed units. And they are actually also waterproof plug types. Right, wiring loom removed. Let's get one of the ground pins is to the chassis of the unit. I've not seen that before in one of these. Okay. I've not seen, oh actually, right, the internal fan has been balanced as well. There's a chunk missing there, which if one of my old videos, one of the other heaters had just moved a chunk with pliers and people said that it wasn't balancing, but it seemed that they've also done it on this one. So balance the internal fan as well. I haven't seen a burn chamber like this before, nor have I seen a glow plug like this before. Let's do I need to do a comparison against one of the other ones with this. First thing I notice is, yeah, completely different style of burn chamber and different style of glow plug as well. So normally glow plugs on these heaters require a special tool and are pretty much bolted in there and slides out that hatch. This one on the other hand seems to be doing it in a very different way. That's the glow plug there, just mounted in the hole. Right, as I want to have a look at internals as well, there seems to be a little set screw in there that I'm hoping is then going to release whatever that is so I can get that glow plug out and actually I'll take out the burn chamber and have a look inside. First, I need to remove this delicately. It's quite brown. Ah yes, I completely destroyed the seal. Just remove the valve. That's a different side of a glow plug I've seen before. Right, I need to get this valve on, all being well without breaking it. Okay, this is definitely different to ones I've seen in the past, that's for sure. Right, well, let's just get its cheaper counterpart disassembled so we can also have a look inside. So for these ones, you need a special tool to get them out. Yeah, definitely different styles of glow plug, or at least the mounting method is different. The glow plugs themselves look pretty very similar. Right, well, the internals of this casting are definitely different. The Velit one on the side, a lot thicker on its fins than the other one. But apart from that, principle is pretty the same. But this is the bit I wanted to look at, was the proprietary burn chamber. And definitely different looking units all round. So it's got a bit of a fine mesh at the back, which looks like what it's using as the atomizer, as in the fuel is doused onto it, unlike Chinese made ones which have an atomizer in there, so the fuel enters that mesh and then the glow plug ignites it. But no, definitely a different style of burn chamber than I've seen before. Well then, initial thoughts is, minus the cleaning up of the flashings on the casting for the main heat exchanger, yes, it's a very similar design to, or effectively the same design as the cheaper Chinese ones, which are the same design as the Überspacher ones. So I would say that this heater is more similar to the original S-Bar D4, which the Chinese heaters are based off, than the Chinese heaters are. The ECU casing design seems almost identical to the one used on the S-Bar units. The actual quality looks better, like this is well thought through and a more intricate design. The inside of this casting is actually far thicker on the walls. I don't know if that's beneficial or not. They balance the internal fan and that balance the external fan. All the electrics are using waterproof, or at least water resistant plug styles. The ECU itself is a sealed unit, so it actually looks quite better quality, well, looks better made heater, to be honest. Actually, whilst we're here, let's have a peek inside these boxes. Well, diesel and gasoline appear to be the exact same in this case, but I wouldn't be surprised. I presume it's just software based so that they preload the diesel software on one and gasoline software on the other. Let's just see if we can pull one of these out as well. Well, there we go. I can't honestly tell you what many of these parts are, apart from I can tell you that one, that's the Hall effect sensor, which figures out the motor speed by counting the revolutions of that going past. And looking on the other side of that, it's the same unit. But it seems like a well-designed PCB, to be honest. Well, that's their one. This is an example of one of the Chinese ones. The petrol gasoline, the diesel gasoline labeling was me, just so I didn't get them confused up. But they have actually presumably color coded them differently, so they can easily tell which is which. So build quality, I'm pretty happy. Time to get it put together again and see if it actually delivers on what it says. Right, well, I'll quickly reassemble the other ones off camera. Right, so actually testing the heater. This wasn't the easiest of process. There was a small issue that the 0.65 pump was dead on arrival. Well, here's the problem. The fuel pump is dead. Didn't work, so I emailed them and messaged them on Instagram, and very quickly, about a week later, a new one turned up in the post. So testing itself, I've got a couple hours worth of footage of getting all the data I wanted to get, which doesn't really lead to a very interesting sequence. So more or less what I wanted to test was the CO output against the heater running on gasoline, the heater running on diesel, and then run that against one of my 5 kilowatt diesel heaters that I use in the van normally. And there should be some different results. Particularly the proprietary combustion chamber they have, which I spoke to them about, and turns out that is what makes the heater multi-fuel. It's something which they've developed themselves. It turns what would normally be a diesel heater to run on gasoline and diesel. The proprietary combustion chamber also increases unit efficiency by 30%, so it decreases the exhaust temperatures, which I can monitor with my thermal cameras, both the exhaust temperatures and the unit's heat output temperature. However, I will say I don't know if comparing CO results from a gasoline heater versus a diesel counterpart is the most accurate, as they are different fuel sources, but I'm sure there is some useful bits. I also don't know how accurate my CO readings are, because I'm in an outside environment and it's not the easiest to actually take the measurements. However, I did make a little rig, so at least I would hold the sensor the same distance away every time from the exhaust pipe. So first up, gasoline. So I've got all of the units set up on my test bench. I'm running them off a 12-volt battery. So first up is running the heater on gasoline. Right, this appears to be flickering on the screen. In reality, it's not. That's just a refresh rate of the camera. Unfortunately, the current limitation is it only uses Fahrenheit. There's no option for centigrade, which is what the rest of the world uses, and not possible to change it on this current version of the ECU. So gasoline heater, after priming the pump and getting the heater running, I left the heater running on high for 10 minutes. Let's see what results we get. Right, it seems to be the 12 to 15 mark. Let's say 245 and 475. Then I changed it down to low. Say around 135 is the average. 149, 300. 103, 210. And then changed it to medium. Around 80. 196, 393. 115, 239. So here's all the test data for the gasoline. Next, I swapped it out for the diesel ECU. Right, I need to swap it over from the petrol gasoline ECU to the diesel one. And this is where the problems happened. I could not get this heater functioning well running diesel. It would seem to start, then flame out, reboot, and billow out smoke for the best part of 10 minutes before getting up to temperature. And I also ended up with a few different errors along the way as well. Running at full power on diesel, the heater got extremely hot, far hotter than I would expect normally. I did eventually, after much trial and error, get 3 readings for high, medium and low, before frankly I gave up. This heater it's not currently stable running diesel. It's not currently acceptable running diesel making this amount of smoke. Although it was making a lot of smoke, it did seem to actually have quite a low CO output. However, it seems software based, as in the boot sequence and the running sequence for diesel, opposed to being a hardware issue. Right, little post-edit update. I'm currently in the jungles of Borneo working, but the diesel version, there seems to be an issue with my particular one opposed to the actual unit running diesel in general. They've sold many of them and diesel's not been an issue, so they're going to send me a new diesel ECU out and see if that fixes my problem. But it's not an overall problem, just one with mine individually. But I still needed to get the data from my 5 kilowatt Chinese heater. Right, well, whilst that one cools down, I'm going to put in one of my cheap Chinese heaters. Saw this earlier on. It might have a different looking case, but there's no real difference in how the unit works as such. It's just got a different plastic box. Exactly the same as the grey one, just different plastic box. And these are results from some high, medium and low. And here they are all compared together. Observations. The exhaust temperatures on the Velit heater are considerably lower across the board on both fuel sources. There are some variations on the heat output of the unit as well. I did also test the 5 kilowatt Chinese diesel heater I have in my van. However, I found it wildly different setup to the existing one, so testing is pretty inaccurate. I did also retest the bench mounted Chinese heater because its CO output seemed far too low on the low setting compared to the other heaters. Well, that's 60. The Chinese diesel heater wasn't tuned for testing, and the Velit heater in its current state can't be tuned either for a better burn efficiency. Noise-wise, I would definitely say those internally, the Velit heater, it is quieter. The fuel pump is definitely a lot quieter, a lot less of a ticking noise and more of a lighter thud. I did keep the air intake and exhaust the same across all tests, just so there was some consistency there. As far as it goes on gasoline, this heater works fine. Diesel, on the other hand, which is the type of heaters I'm more experienced with as a fuel source, proved problematic for me. But I do hope that that issue will be rectified in the future, because it feels to be more software based opposed to a hardware issue with the diesel. Well, I hope you can come away with your own conclusions for this. For me, the gasoline worked flawlessly, diesel not so much. Whilst I wasn't able to test the thermometer, it is currently 29 degrees in the UK, which is hot for us. I was able to show the mode that when on its thermostat mode it gets too hot, the heater shuts down, which is rare amongst auxiliary heaters, opposed to just dialing down to a lower power, which is pretty important. It stops your vehicle overheating in the winter season, even if the heater running on low is a bit too much. So I've put it onto thermostat, and it should, because I've turned it down quite low and it's hotter than ambient already, the unit is cooling down because it's on thermostat. It said it's too hot. Because the ambient temperature is already way above it, the heater should shut down. So I want to trick this to think that it's got too cold and needs to turn back on again. So frozen foods, let's try and cool down the temperature sensor. Well, there you go. It's realised that now it's too cold, so it's got to turn back on again. I hope you found this review helpful. I've taken it apart, I've shown you what's inside and what it looks like. My views, having played with quite a few different heaters across different brands in the past. If you are interested in finding out more, there is a link in the description. Feel free to leave a like, or any questions which I could maybe answer in the comments below, or any other bits and bobs I should have done for more consistent testing. Or if you want to subscribe and follow the channel to find out some of the other silly things I do, from electrical projects to overlanding in the Arctic, which is where I use heaters quite a lot. But thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.